Hola, buenas tardes. Good afternoon. ¿Cómo están hoy? My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Welcoming you to today's En Casa con La Plaza Cocina. Every Monday, we bring to you the best chefs, restaurateurs, food historians, bakers, and many more. Taqueros too, from our home to yours. First, let me give you an update on La Plaza. We are open now, of course, every day, except Tuesday. You'll be, if you get here before the end of the week, you'll be able to see Afro-Latinidad, Mi Casa, My City, our exhibition on the Afro-Latino community here in Los Angeles. It goes away this weekend. Also, our neon art mural, Only Light Can Do That, by Patrick Martinez. It'll be going dark this weekend as well, so you have one last week. Like I said, Tuesday we're closed, but also we're closed this Wednesday for a very special occasion. It's our 10th anniversary Pobladores Gala Awards event, where we're honoring the founders of La Plaza. 10 years, can you imagine that? We'll be, we have some fabulous food from Ivan Vasquez from Madre. We'll have great entertainment brought to you by Lupita Infante herself with Mariachis Lindas Mexicanas. A silent auction. You'll be the first, some of you will be the first to see La Plaza Cocina, which will be Jimena's new digs coming hopefully in October. I'll be posting the URL on both the chat and on the, let's see, on the chat and also on the comment section on Facebook. So please click on it. If you're not able to come all the way to Los Angeles, we're also making it available via stream. There's a streaming category there where you pay a little dinerito, but you get both the stream, you become a Sepulveda member of La Plaza, and you also receive a beautiful limited edition print by Jose Ramirez. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop talking here and bring on Jimena Martin. Please join us, Jimena.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? It's so nice and gloomy, just perfect for baking. We have a very special guest all the way from Mexico City. Please let me introduce you, Eliceo Lara, baker, born in Mexico City. For the last 5 years, he's been teaching how to make Mexican bread pastries to locals and to travelers, many through his in-person Airbnb experiences and now via Zoom online classes. His specialty is pan dulce and tres leches cakes. He has hosted over 2,000 guests in his kitchen in Mexico City, but also in the United States, Canada, Spain, Portugal, and France. So please let me introduce you to Eliceo Lara. Eliceo, ¿cómo estamos?
Muy bien, Jimena. Hola, Jimena. Hola, Abelardo.
So tell us, how are you? Have you been?
I'm great. I've been missing you and my classes with La Plaza. It's great to be back with you.
No, it's always great to have you back because you're like our baker, our go-to baker. And hopefully when you come to Los Angeles, you can come and bake for us in La Cocina, which will be premiering on Wednesday, September 29th, which is actually in Mexico, El Día de Maíz. And the inaugural exhibition is going to be on Maíz. So it's all kind of full circle for us there. But today, what you're going to be making us is the pan dulce Besos. Tell us, how long you've been making those Besos pan dulces there for you?
Besos is a very popular pastry in Mexico. It's a kind of cookie, like a sandwich cookie, and usually has some jam inside. I think the most popular is maybe strawberry jam, but you can see all different kinds of jam. One of my favorites is jam that has berries and chile in it, because chile complements really well the sweet flavors of the cookie. So usually it's a cookie that we will be making from scratch today. Then when it comes out of the oven and it cools down, it's covered with a very simple buttercream. Then we coat it with sugar and fill it with jam. Today, I think I'm going to be using a blueberry jam. But as I said before, you can use any kind of jam that you have. I think one of my favorites is also guava jam for this. It's really good.
I forget, so many different words. I mean, since I do my Spanish here and there, how do you say blueberry in Spanish?
Mora azul.
Mora azul.
Sí, tal cual.
Okay. I thought it was a little bit more complex than that. Okay, mora azul. Okay, great.
Yeah, 'cause with blackberries, it's zarzamoras, which has nothing to do, but so it's quite different. But with blueberries, it's just like that. Mora,
Y la raspberry, ¿cómo dice raspberry?
frambuesas.
Frambuesas. Falta de usar. I need to speak more Spanish. Frambuesa, of course,
Yeah.
frambuesa.
Especially in the kitchen. Yeah, that's something that usually my students from my baking groups tell me that with the bilingual classes, they usually, you know, like learn more vocabulary or remember words they haven't been using a lot. So that's great.
Yeah, I always say, la verdad, when we have our en casa cocina in Spanish, is aprender como soltar la lengua, because it's there, but it's this lack of using it. I miss speaking Spanish. So when you come on, I always like little Spanglish with you. Too. Anyhow, question: when you do your classes there in Mexico, do you actually buy the jams, or in your with the students, do you make the jams from scratch, or as part of the cooking class, the baking class?
It depends on what we are making and if we have the time to do that. If I have the time to do it, I usually love making jam from scratch, especially because you can make these different flavors, right? That are usually not available, let's say, at the supermarket. I love, I think one of my favorites is mango with tajin.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, with like a good sourdough and butter and this jam, it's really good. Or this kind of guava with vanilla bean and just a splash of rum on top. It's really good as well. So you can play with your flavors way more.
And what's nice too is, besides making your own flavors, is also you can control the quantities of sugar. That's the other thing too. So it's not so, and you know exactly what's in it. It's a little bit healthier per se than the jar. But I know when you're in a pinch, those beautiful jars of jam do the trick.
Yeah, totally, definitely.
Bueno, seguimos pues.
Perfect. Let's get baking. I'm gonna change camera so you can see my counter. Let's see, can you hear me there? I think so.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as I said before, we're going to be making a cookie. We're going to start by making the cookie from scratch. We're going to be using the creaming method. That means that we're going to be mixing the butter and the sugar. That's going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to start with that. And while that's happening, I'm going to give you all the list of ingredients, a very detailed list of ingredients, so you can all write them down and have them for whenever you are recreating besos at home. So I'm going to start with the butter. It's very easy to know when you are using the creaming method, because usually when you see a recipe that calls for beat until light and fluffy, let's say whenever you're making cookies and sometimes a cake, the recipe calls for doing that. And that's pretty sure you're using the creaming method. That means we are going to be mixing some butter and sugar. And first, we do want to mix these two ingredients. That's very important. But the second thing we are looking for is that we want to incorporate a lot of air into this mixture. So you can see now how it looks kind of yellow because of the color of the butter. As I start increasing the speed of this, it's gonna become like a pale yellow, and eventually it's gonna become pretty white because there's so much air inside of this batter. So I think these two are mixed now. So I'm gonna increase the speed. I'm starting in a very low speed, and now I'm going to a medium high speed, and it's gonna be for a few minutes. Usually it takes in a mixer, let's say from 5 to 10 minutes, and we are looking for a light and fluffy texture. I'm gonna show you how it looks later. Also, I'm using a stand mixer now, but if you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer, or you can even do it by hand. That's gonna take some elbow grease, but you can definitely do that by hand as well.
just takes maybe a little longer.
In a
It's great if you
pinch,
have,
can you use margarine or if you're vegan, an alternative butter?
yes, of course. Any kind of fat that you would like to use. A lot of bakers sometimes use even vegetable shortening, margarine. I usually try to stay away from margarine. There are other vegan alternatives to butter, but you can definitely use all those for this recipe or any other recipe that calls for that's going to use the creaming method. So now that is happening, I'm going to give you the entire list of ingredients. So if our guests want to write down the ingredients. So I started with 2 sticks of butter. 2 sticks of butter, that's 220 grams. Our butter is at room temperature. As you can see, it's nice and soft. This is very important. All our ingredients should be at room temperature whenever you are using the creaming method. This is because we're starting with butter, usually, and butter is very temperature sensitive, right? So if it's too hot, it's gonna melt. And if it's too cold, it's gonna get hard. We don't want that to happen. So we want to start with room temperature butter. Later, we're going to use an egg and we're going to use milk. We want those to be at room temperature as well. Let's say if we added a cold egg to this, it might look as if it has curdled. We don't want that to happen. So all our ingredients should be at room temperature for this recipe. So that was 2 sticks of butter or 220 grams. I usually use grams because it's a bit more accurate, but the cups and tablespoons can also be used. Then we have 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. That is 130 grams, 130 grams. We're gonna be adding 1 large egg at room temperature, as I was saying before, 1 large egg. Also for liquid ingredients, we're gonna be using 4 tablespoons of milk at room temperature or 60 grams. 4 tablespoons or 60 grams of milk at room temperature. Also feel free to use any vegan options for milk, can also be used in this recipe. And then our final liquid ingredient is vanilla extract. That is just 2 teaspoons or 7 grams. 2 teaspoons or 7 grams. Finally, our dry ingredients, that's gonna be 370 grams of all-purpose flour, 370 grams all-purpose flour. That is 3 cups, give or take. And baking powder, 7 grams, or 1.5 teaspoons. 1 pinch of salt, kind of generous pinch of salt. And today I'm gonna be adding some orange zest. That is completely optional, but I always like to add some citrus zest to my besos. You can use orange or mandarin, goes really well with this as well. If you have mandarin, I would totally prefer mandarin. Right now, it's just available mandarin in the market. And it's one of my favorite moments of the year because I love using it for all kinds of things. I'm gonna go back to my mixture. I don't know if you can see it in detail, but it's way more clear, the color. It's like a very pale yellow, almost white mixture. And it feels really light. It does feel real light. If I take it out of the bowl, you can see the color. It's not yellow.
It's like whipped cream, whipped butter. It's beautiful. The texture's nice and creamy.
Exactly. And that's gonna give us a very nice texture in our cookies. I was just reading the other day, one of the first Christina Tosi's books, The Chef from Milk Bar. And she insists on, while doing this, the creaming of the butter and sugar, that it should take at least 10 minutes for her. I think I totally agree with her because that's going to give you a very nice crumb in your cookie. I think for me, the rule with cookies is that when you are doing this step, you should mix for a very long time. But once you add the flour, the dry ingredients, you should only mix until it's incorporated, evenly incorporated, and stop right there. I think that's a good rule of thumb whenever you're making cookies of all kinds.
Eliceo, we have a question just to confirm. They kind of hopped in a little late. Can you confirm the quantities of sugar for this recipe, please?
Sure. Sugar was 2/3 of a cup or 130 grams.
Gracias. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so this looks good to me. I think we can proceed with the rest of the recipe. When I'm using my stand mixer, I usually try to clean the sides of my bowl every once in a while, just to make sure everything is evenly mixed and it's nice and light and fluffy now. And I think we can proceed with the rest of the recipe. Okay, so now we are gonna incorporate 1 egg to this butter and sugar mixture. But I want to add it little by little. I don't want to add all of it at once because it might not incorporate well with the rest of the mixture and it might look a little curdled. So I'm gonna break the egg in a separate container and I'm gonna whisk it with a fork. The reason for that is that if I try to pour, you know, like just a little bit of egg and it's like this, it's like all of it is gonna go in. I know that's gonna happen. So I'm gonna just mix it with a fork to make sure I'm really breaking the egg. And then I can add it in maybe 4 parts, give or take. I'm going to add a little bit, then mix, and then slow. Get the speed of the mixture down, and then increase it again. And yeah, maybe 4 additions. Okay, I'm making sure I really broke the egg, and then I'm gonna pour it gradually. I'm gonna go with maybe 1/4 of my egg, and then I'm gonna increase the speed. And it could be the same process if you were making it by hand or with a hand mixer, exactly same thing. Just take the speed down, add a little bit of egg, then increase the speed until completely incorporated. Okay, I'm gonna do a second addition now. I'm increasing the speed again. Usually if it's like a really big batch, you can add 1 egg and then stop and then second egg. But since this is not too big of a batch, it's better to do it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna go with my 3rd addition. As soon as it is completely incorporated, then we can lower the speed and then add a little bit more. I'm going to clean the side of my bowl again.
How many cookies come out of this recipe?
About, I think 15 to 20 cookies. I'm gonna make them kind of small. That is, of course, baker's choice. Some people make them really big, but I like with Besos, I want to have like 2 or 3 bites and then they're gone, you know?
Besitos. Little
Exactly.
besitos.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want them to be too big. Okay, so that was the last part of my egg. Now I'm just gonna add the milk and the vanilla extract. Remember, the milk should be at room temperature. I just mix my milk and my vanilla extract in a separate container. And I'm gonna be doing the same, that I'm gonna be adding them gradually. I don't want to add all of it at once. Just a little at a time. When we do this in Spanish, we call it como un hilo, because it looks like a thread. Just a little bit at a time. There we go. Again, if I just added this all at once, it might curdle. So we don't want that to happen. So just a little bit. And again, make sure it's at room temperature, because it's pretty common to just use the milk out of the fridge and then think like, oh no, I ruined it. You can fix that, but it will look curdled if you do that. Okay. With the milk, I'm doing maybe 5 to 6 additions. Just make sure it's completely mixed. And then I add the next one. Okay, now all of my milk is in there. Okay. And that is all our wet ingredients. One thing I forgot to tell you is that when you start the recipe, it's good to preheat your oven to 350 Fahrenheit, 350 Fahrenheit. So this way, by the time you finish your recipe, the oven is ready for you.
How long did it take to bake?
I make them kind of small, and it's gonna take around 20 minutes, give or take, depending on your oven. If you make them bigger, then it would maybe take 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so this is completely incorporated. Let me show you how it looks. Looks kind of like buttercream. It's nice and fluffy and light, and that's the texture we are looking for. Okay. I'm gonna clean the sides of my bowl. If you are adding citrus zest, this is the time to do that. I will do that now. I'm gonna use just one orange today. A good tip when you're using the zest of any citrus fruit, first of all, is to really wash it, because you know all the pesticides are usually like very on the skin of the fruit. It's good to do that. And then another very important thing, especially with oranges, is try to do. You are trying to do this only with the outer skin. You don't want to go to the white part, because that can get quite bitter. So usually only the orange part of the orange. You're using a mandarin, you don't have to worry about that because like the entire peel is edible, right? It's really sweet.
So now that COVID's kind of lining up a little bit, when do you think you're going to have in-person classes again there in your studio?
I think I'm gonna resume my in-person classes, I think by November. Just waiting for my second shot. Fingers crossed that's gonna happen in a few weeks tops. Yes, finally. I also stopped for a second, well, for a whole season, my online classes, but I'm resuming again in October. Course for Pan de Muertos.
Yes, it's too bad we didn't time it correctly. We could have had you back for Pan de Muerto.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so all my citrus zest is in there. And then I'm gonna sift my dry ingredients right on top of this. I'm gonna start with my flour. I usually just sift on top of it because who wants to do more dishes, right?
Right.
Just go
Can you,
like that.
can you be kind, remind us again the quantities of flour for this recipe, please?
Of course, that was 3 cups or 370 grams. Okay, the rest of the flour. I'm going to be also adding my baking powder and pinch of salt.
How much baking powder?
Baking powder was, I think, 1.5 teaspoons or 7 grams. There we go. That's it. I'm going to take this back to the mixer. And of course, I'm going to start this time in a very low speed because I don't want a big cloud of flour all over my counter. If you are using a hand mixer for this, I would start mixing by hand. And then I would go to, and then I would use the mixer. Okay. So very slow speed for now. As I said before, whenever you're making cookies, once you add the flour, you want to mix just as needed. You don't want to go for a very long time because you would be developing the gluten in the cookie, and we don't want a bread texture. We want a nice crunchy texture for a cookie. Okay, so this is just barely incorporated. I'm gonna go to maybe a medium high speed, but just for a few seconds. I don't want to develop the gluten. I just want to make sure that all my ingredients are evenly distributed in the dough. And that's it. You have to stop right there. You don't want to overwork the dough. And now would be a good moment to bring a couple of baking trays. Usually what I do for Besos, just to make sure they are all the same size, is that I use an ice cream scoop. So they are all exactly the same size. I don't have to worry about that. And a second. Okay, here we go.
What's nice about the ice cream scoop is, besides for perfectly shaped cookies, is also I use them for albondigas. So
Oh,
they
there
might make,
you go.
yeah, it's as though they're all the same size and they cook the same. That's the other thing too.
Aha. Yeah, exactly. They look more like a restaurant, or even sized, but also, and most importantly, they will cook evenly. Exactly. It's the same for these ones. So I'm gonna bring. I usually use the small one for this, but as I said before, you can make them as big as you want. If you use a small ice cream scoop, this is gonna be maybe around 20 cookies. We're gonna get 40 halves because we're gonna put two together to form one cookie. And I'm gonna show you how I do this. I'm just making sure I use all of this dough. Okay, there we go. So it even feels really light. Like when I use this for my spatula, it even feels really light, and that's how it's supposed to be. And that's the reason we are spending that time before with the creaming of the butter and sugar, because we do want this texture. And I usually just go like this, make sure it's completely filled. And if you're making this size, I can usually put 12 per tray. They will not spread out a lot. This is not one of those cookies. It's gonna be like a little mountain. There we go.
Do you have any favorite baking cookbooks, baking books for our guests? So start getting ready for the holidays.
What's that, sorry?
Do you have any suggested cookbooks or baking books?
Oh, well, some of my favorites are, and I think you do have that one, right? Like the Panes Mexicanos by Irving.
Yes, I'm
Irving
trying to find that right now. Another one that's kind of fun too is Fanny Gerson, My Sweet Mexico.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. Yes. Mhm.
This is a really, really nice book to go to. It's great for the holidays, for the gift, for the bakers. But let me try to find the one you're talking about, the baking book.
I think that's my go-to reference. Not only just because of the recipes, but it has a lot of different varieties.
Yeah, it does. You keep baking. I'm gonna try to go find that book so folks who are interested can pick it up.
Perfect. So this is how they look before going into the oven. They would be in the oven, as I said before. If you're making them this size, that's gonna be around 20 minutes, give or take. And then voila, that's how they will look out of the oven.
That was fast.
That's the magic of Zoom. So you're gonna take them out of the oven when they barely start getting some color on the sides, like this. The bottom will have more color, but on the top, you will only have color like on the edges, just like this. That's how you know they are done. You don't want to overcook them because then they're gonna be too dry. And this is a very nice cookie that will be moist and will crumble very nicely. So that's when you want to take them out of the oven. Okay. And now we just want to cover them with our buttercream and fill them with jam. I'm going to show you how to make this buttercream. It's really, really easy. I'm going to bring my ingredients. We're simply going to be using butter, powdered sugar, and vanilla extract. Of course, you can use a different extract. You could use Again, some more citrus zest. You can do all kinds of things with this. This is a very simple recipe. It's not one of those complicated buttercreams that take, you know, like boiling sugar and water. This is a very straightforward recipe. So I'm simply going to be using some powdered sugar, butter, and vanilla extract. I'm going to give you the list of ingredients for the finishing. We're going to be using 100 grams, a little bit less than 1 stick of butter. Let's say if you have 1 stick of butter, just take 1 tablespoon, and that's give or take 100 grams. So there goes my butter. Then we're going to be using 40 grams powdered sugar. And we're going to sift the powdered sugar on top of this. That is 40 grams or 1/3 of a cup. I'm simply going to sift that on top of my butter, just to make sure we don't have any clumps. You know how powdered sugar tends to get a little clumpy.
But also, I find powdered sugar is a nice stabilizer when you're doing like whipped cream. To sweeten your whipped cream, the powdered sugar, I don't know what's in it, but it just keeps it stable.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you know, let's say melt down. It starts getting all watery.
Yeah, because that can happen really quickly, especially during the summer months when it's really hot. Okay, and then I'm simply going to add to that some vanilla extract. That's it. This together. That's a really nice and quick way to make this.
Well, while you're whisking away, I found it. It's called Panes Larus, Panes Mexicanos. It's very good. It's got everybody in here from got all the different types of pan dulces, tetelas, cocol de anís, banderillas. I know this was a great companion during the pandemic. Always trying to find different recipes on this. And the version I have is in Spanish, but I'm not sure if they have it in English, but it's a really great example of Mexican baking.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's divided in, I think, 4 sections. It's like cookies, then probably pan dulce, the one made with gisted dough. And then it also has a section for puff pastry and laminated doughs. It's a really good book.
Quick question: how much vanilla extract did you use for the we just used right now for the?
I did 7 grams or 2 teaspoons.
Thank you.
7 grams or 2 teaspoons. Okay. Now, I have my buttercream ready to go. I have some sugar here on the side. And now what we want to do is that we want to coat this with some buttercream and then coat them with sugar. Of course, you can definitely bring a pastry brush and use that. The way we do it at bakeries, and what I would recommend you doing is just make sure your hands are impeccably clean, make sure you really wash your hands, and just go for it. It's way quicker, and we're not going to be making any more dishes to clean. So I simply go like this, make sure everything is nicely coated with this. There we go. And then coat them with my sugar, just to create a crunchy topping. We don't want to add more, like a lot of sugar on top, just a little bit. And it gets nice and shiny. And we're only gonna be doing the top, not the bottom, because the jam is gonna be right here. So we're gonna be doing only the top. I'm gonna do a few more, just to show you how some of them will look, the finished product. Does anyone have any questions?
Folks are asking about the book that I was talking about. Put up again, Larousse, Panes Mexicanos, and it's Irving Quiros. And I was able to find this online. Again, this is a pandemic, beautiful find. It's in Spanish, and it's got every single type, every different type of Mexican panaderia style stuff for home. Very accessible, very easy, very hands-on.
Someone is asking, are you dipping in powder or granulated sugar? Granulated sugar, just regular granulated sugar.
Eliceo, but since they have butter and sugar, can they stay out, or after you're done putting them together, do you put them back into the refrigerator because of the butter?
I usually put them in the fridge in a closed container, but I usually like to have them at room temperature. So I would wait for them to come to room temperature before serving them. It's the same, let's say, when you're making a cake covered with buttercream, you should have it in the fridge, but when serving it, it's better if it's at room temperature. The texture of the buttercream will be way better.
Yes. This is such a really easy recipe, Eliceo. I could totally see this doing it at home. Like, you know, I can do this tomorrow before my kid gets home.
Yeah,
really nice.
Exactly. And if you have kids, don't use a mixer, go by hand. They'll have fun with it. Okay. I'm going to rinse my hands really quickly. And then we can finish this.
While everybody's waiting in the chat, I'm going to put the name of the book. Just make sure I got the right author, Irving Quiros. Okay, there it went. So it's Larousse, that's the book company, Panes Mexicanos, Irving Quiros.
Okay. So I have some jam here. If you're making a lot, you can, of course, put your jam in a pastry bag, and that could make like a nice production line. But if you're just making a few, you could just go ahead and put it with a spoon. Don't add too much because it will, when you do two of these together, like this, we want just enough, a little like that. And I love the color in the middle from the jam.
What a decadent cookie. Butter on
Right?
both sides. It's so decadent. Me hace agua la boca. It's so decadent. It's delicious. I could do with a cup of tea, a good cup of coffee. Folks are asking where the recipe will be available. We'll post that online through our YouTube or Facebook. So Eliceo, if you can be so kind to put it down. I don't think you sent me the recipe. I can't remember. And so that way we can just post it up for folks to follow. As easy as it was, it's nice to have it on online.
Of course. Yes. I don't remember if I sent it to you, but I will
Okay.
today, so everyone can have it.
Thank you.
Okay. And this is how the final product looks like.
That looks gorgeous. That looks amazing. I'm gonna make those tomorrow. I'm gonna make them tomorrow, and I'm gonna tag you.
Please do. Yes, and as you were saying, it's not one of those, like you have to prepare a lot of different things and knead, and it's a pretty straightforward recipe with ingredients you might have at home already. So yeah, it's great for if you're making them with kids.
Just in time for the holidays, now that it's cooling down here for us here, getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and when the kids are home. That looks such a family-friendly recipe. Before we get going, because we're ya casi terminamos. If we could switch the camera so you can hold the cookies. And what we do either on YouTube or on our Facebook, we have a photo of you holding the cookies.
Give me a second. I'm gonna.
Let me see. Can you? I'm gonna.
You have to move your camera.
There we go.
Listo.
All right.
Okay.
Bien. 1, 2 y 3. Say besos. All right. Gracias.
No, Eliceo, siempre un placer. Thank you so much. I'm going to see if we can work together before the year is over. But again, it's always a pleasure. Always delicious recipes, so accessible to everyone to do at home. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Good luck on your upcoming in-person classes. And again, muchísimas gracias for sharing all your baking secrets and your recipes with us. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias a ti, Jimena, and thank you for everyone who was watching. And yes, looking forward to see you again in a different class. Muchísimas gracias. Mucha suerte. Best vibes for you for the opening of the cocina.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. Absolutely. Y con eso, gracias. Se le paso a mi compañero, Everaldo.
So gracias, Eliceo. That looks delicious, and I'm sure I know who's going to be eating those tonight. And Jimena, I hear you're going to be making some tomorrow, or bringing some to work. I'm hoping.
You know what? I pick up my girl this afternoon. I have all the ingredients. I think I'm going to make them, and I'll bring some for the office. I'll see what I don't have. Strawberry. I have like fig or apricot jam, but I'll make them. It was easy enough that I could do it in an hour or so. But thank you.
Oh, good. We're looking forward to that. All right. Let me see what I'm doing here. Trying to get back onto the. All right. I think we're good. Anyway, thank you so much to everybody that joined us today. We have Pamela Cooley. Thank you. You are a great teacher, Eliceo. Leonor Loera, thank you. Marisela Hernandez, thank you for the presentation. Can't wait to make them, and I'm sure your family can't wait either, Marisela. And let's see, Jacqueline Rivera, looks like a yummy cookie. Muchas gracias. Sofia Solis, mil gracias. Oh, you're the best, Eliceo, when it comes to these wonderful pastry pan dulces. Yum. We love them. Anyway, so thank you to all that joined us today at En Casa con la Plaza. We are here next Monday with, let's see, who will be here? I'm still trying to, why do I still have you as the spotlight? Not that, you're probably more handsome than I am. A ver cómo se hace. Well, we're going to keep looking at Eliceo while I mention what's going on next week. We have upcoming events on October 4th, Pollo Rostizado and Adobo with Leslie Teles, food journalist and cookbook author. So that's next Monday, October 4th. And of course, our special event, the La Plaza Annual Pobladores Awards Gala, stream it. Just go to our website, lapga.org, click on that first image that you see. If you can't make it down here, stream it, and you'll get some wonderful benefits to go along with that. So con eso, gracias a todos. Thank you to our sponsor, Union Pacific Foundation. Gracias, Eliceo. Nos vemos pronto. We'll see you even sooner, Jimena, with those besos.
I'll try. I'll really try.
All right, bye-bye.
Muchas gracias.
Okay, gracias.